Hello everybody. In this video we're going to be matching a scatter plot to a correlation coefficient. So what's going to be happening is we are going to be given some data in red. So these red data points are plotted on the graph, and you can see I have 4 that seem to fit in a line and then 1 that very much does not. And then I'll have a green dashed line of best fit through that data. And so I will be given 4 possible correlation coefficients and be asked to select which one is most appropriate. So in order to do this, you have to understand the 2 pieces of information given in our correlation coefficient R. And the first piece of information is given by the sign of R, whether it is positive, like these 2, or negative, like these 2. If the correlation coefficient is negative, that would indicate that we should see a negative correlation. That is, that the data set will decrease going left to right, and that can best be seen from the line of best fit here, which we see does in fact decrease as we go left to right. If the correlation coefficient is positive, that would indicate a line of best fit that is increasing. That is, that the data overall would increase in y value as we go left to right. So here we can see that the line of best fit is decreasing, so we would expect a negative correlation coefficient. So that narrows it down to these 2. The other part of the correlation coefficient is called its magnitude. That is the size of the number. And the correlation coefficient will range between 1 and 0 in terms of magnitude. Now it can also be positive or negative. So if the data set, if the red points are very, very close to that green line, then we would expect a magnitude of our correlation coefficient closer to 1. If the data is very spread out from the line, we would expect a correlation coefficient closer to 0. So in this case, we can see that the data is very, very far away from the line. These 2 points are kind of balancing each other out. And so we would not expect this to have a correlation coefficient close to 1. We would expect a correlation coefficient closer to 0. So if I look at my 2 with a negative correlation coefficient, we can see that this one is much closer to 0. Again, the data is spread out away from the line of best fit. And so this would be our correct answer. If this were the correct answer, the data would be very close to the line. And so you can ask the computer to check your answer. It will tell you whether or not you are correct. Hit the problem again to get a new one. And here we're given this data where, again, we can see we have a negative correlation. So we're expecting a negative correlation coefficient. So it's either going to be the first or the last. These points are very tightly bunched up on this line, so we would expect a correlation coefficient to have a magnitude of close to 1, or in this case, exactly 1. So we would choose the option that shows a negative correlation and that the data points are very close to the line.